So welcome to the University of Kentucky Lambing School. This is the fifth night and tonight we're going to cover feeding lambs. If this is your first night joining us, welcome. The Kentucky Sheep and Goat Development Office and the Kentucky Sheep and Wool Producers Association are helping Dr. Ely get the Lambing School online this year. If you're not familiar with us, our web address is right here, kysheepandgoat.org. You can come check us out. We got lots of good resources online. And if you ever have any questions, you can always email me or call me. And all of the Lambing School sessions have been recorded. If you've registered prior to this one, then you have gotten links to all of those. And then I am also going to have all 5 sessions along with the resources for them at kysheepandgoat.org in the know.
We remember that we got our ewes fed in late gestation, and then we learned how to feed them during lactation and why we feed them that way. We looked at the barn as an example of maybe how to set up a lambing barn, and then we had the lambs born, worked the lambs through the lambing pens, through the jugs, back to the mixing pens. Then we processed the lambs as we went back to the mixing pens. Then last week we discussed creep feeding to get those lambs to at least to some weight, early weaning at 60 to 90 days, or if they continue to nurse the ewe. So tonight we're going to discuss feeding lambs. We're going to feed lambs. I've got a whole bunch of slides, and then I have a video on the end as an example of the way these lambs were produced, or an example of a production of a set of lambs, and discuss some about that. So all of us are interested, I think, in forages and utilizing forages as much as we can, because that's probably our major resource, and probably the cheapest resource that we've got as far as feed is concerned. However, there may be some problems of getting lambs to market on forages alone. So that's what I'm going to address tonight. Can forages meet the nutritional requirements for producing choice grade lambs on the market? Choice grade, choice or prime, one of those. Most of the lambs, say 90+% of the lambs that go to a marketplace are going to grade choice or prime. So that's what we're shooting for. This lamb that we're talking about is going to be like 3 to 6 months old, 100 to 120 pounds. He meets the requirements for an ideal lean lamb, and information is available as to the ideal weight to slaughter lambs, different lambs of different conformation, different breeds and so forth, so that they will produce the maximum amount of lean and the optimum amount of fat. So this ideal lamb is to do that on average across breeds, and all this is 3 to 6 months, 100 to 120 pounds, and it'll bring the highest price at the market. It may not be, that price might not be high enough for you. It may be too low, but what can we do about that? If we go to the market, then we're at their mercy. And so the best thing we can do is produce the best product we can. I would also say at this time, if we're interested in producing the best product we can, then it's going to take high quality feed to do that. High quality feed produces the most valuable products. High quality feed produces the most valuable products, whatever that valuable product is, however much that is. This is all Hampshires. These are a set of Hampshire lambs. Look, there's a white face or two in there. So this ideal lean lamb is continuing is be like 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of back fat when they're slaughtered. they have less than 1/10 of an inch, they're too thin. There's not enough fat in the carcass. If they're over 1/4 of an inch, they're liable to have too much fat in here. So it's a fine line between here. 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of back fat is ideal. And they have less than 3.5% of the carcass weight as kidney fat. And that's all internal. We can't tell that, but it goes along with the back fat. And the yield grade, 1.0 yield grade is too lean. It is too lean. And there's not enough fat to even protect the carcass from drying out in the cooler after it's been slaughtered. So that's too lean. And a 5 is too fat. So what we're looking at is probably 2.67 in the middle to 3.67, or 2.5 to 3 to 3.5 or thereabouts would be the ideal yield grade. And there's a lot that goes into that, but these are listed as the ideals for lambs that go to slaughter. So the sources of slaughter lambs are as follows. They can be marketed directly off the ewe. She can nurse that lamb all the way to market if you're so inclined. Or it can be weaned before 120 days. The 120 days is the standard weaning age for lambs across this country. Anything weaned before that is early weaned. We found in our area, in the research that we've done and others as well, that 60 to 90 days is ideal as far as early weaning is concerned. Even 60 days is a-okay, but it's going to require management to be able to do that. And so these lambs are weaned at less than 120 days, then they are finished to market weights sometime later. How you go about doing that is the topic basically that we're going to talk about tonight. So our objective is to describe the options that are available to produce this lamb. Let's assume that we're going to try to produce that lamb, that ideal lean slaughter lamb that produces maximum lean and optimum amount of fat. To do this, we start with 3 lambing seasons. We have 3 lambing seasons: January, February, April, or September, October. January, February is the standard. That's the traditional. That's the traditional lambing season. Now, with the advent of, I think, more hair sheep into the United States, we're going to later lambing in April so that we could utilize grass more extensively than we would in a January, February lambing system. The third one is September, October. That is really good. It is really good if you got the right kind of sheep. So we're going to discuss these one at a time, and each one of them will have 3 options. January, February lambing. If you're lambing in January, February now, then I would say pay close attention to this. If you're considering January, February lambing, pay close attention, and then maybe you're going to lamb in April. Maybe you're going to lamb in September, October. That's okay. We're coming to that. But listen to this in thinking about your own situation, how you're operating now, or how you would want to change your operation, or whether you want to change or not. All of these things. That's what I'm trying. I'm just trying to give you a base to go from to help you make any decisions that you want to do as far as changing or starting up or whatever. So one thing in January, February lambing is these are called milk-fed systems, even though the lamb, when it goes to market, has not consumed milk in a long time, because it's going to be a milk-fed lamb regardless. That's the way it's described, even though they haven't consumed milk in 60 to 90 days or whatever. So one of these is you can market the lamb directly off the ewe, or you can early wean the lamb from the ewe and keep the lamb in dry lock or in confinement, or you can early wean to pasture. Now, if you're going to early wean to pasture, I'll say that now, and I intend to say it again later. If you're going to early wean to pasture, you better have had the ewe and the lamb out on pasture for a long time, ever since the lamb was born, because the lamb won't know how to graze pasture if you suddenly wean him away from his mother and put him out on pasture. He's never been there. He'll think he's walking in water, okay? And he won't know what to do. So the ewe has to teach the lamb how to graze. She has to do that. We're going to look at the first one. Is system one is marking the lamb directly off the ewe. And this is what we do to the lamb. I'm not talking anything about what happens to the ewe here, other than we're going to move her. Up to 60 days, the lamb and the ewe would be on some kind of winter pasture. It could be small grains, it could be stockpiled, it could, whatever you've got, they're outside. The lamb has to have a creep ration. It's going to grow. And that creep ration we talked about, it's basically 90% corn, 10% soybean meal. Then 60 days to market is spring pasture. You're going to have some spring pasture. You may even graze small grains up into April or so, and that's really good. And then you go to the cool season grasses, and the lamb still has to be creep fed. And this, now we can change it after 60 days from that ration that you see up above to just plain old shell corn for the lamb. He'll do really good. So there's some advantages of this system. You have fast gains because it stays with the ewe, the lambs stay with the ewe, and it's creep fed. And there's no weaning stress. That's good, isn't it? I think so, but there's a disadvantage or two. One of these is internal parasites, because these lambs typically, they're born in January, February, they would go to market by July 1. They need to probably be in the market by July 1 or before. And if you wait until July 1 to market the lambs, you're going to have some internal parasites, I bet, and this would come from the stomach worm. Because guess who the main infester of internal parasites in the lamb is? It's a mother, it's the ewe. She's the primary infester of internal parasites into the lamb. So that's the reason to early wean. Get her out of the way, put the lamb on clean pasture, and cut down on your stomach worm load. Also, if you keep the lamb on the ewe, she's going to eat that high quality feed. The feed in this case is going to be high quality grass in spring. Plus, she's going to need some grain. We have found that we basically have to feed some concentrates to the ewe. So the longer she's milking, the more you got to feed her, and that's high quality stuff, and that's expensive. And the reason that it becomes expensive is because what she's really doing for the lamb is shown down below. Her milk production decreases after 21 to 35 days after she had a lamb. And in that case, then why not? If she's not going to be given but just a little dab of milk to that lamb, then why not get rid of her and let her live on fresh air and sunshine and let the lamb have all the good feed that she might be consuming. So there's some disadvantage of that system. Now, these lambs are born in January, February. They have to be born in January, February, because these ewes won't breed out of season. So that means we're going to early wean the dry lot or confinement. We lambed in the barn January, February. We creep fed the lambs from day 7, a 90-10, same ration that I just showed you. At 60 days, we get the ewes out of there, move them out, leave the lambs where they are on the same creep for 7 days a week. Then for the next week, mix the creep ration with the post-weaning grain mix that you're going to feed, half and half, half and half. This grain mix is the one that we use, and I am not necessarily pushing this. We think it's not just because we made it, but we think it does really well for us. And you've seen this, a lot of you have seen this grain mix before. It's 80% corn and 20% of a protein pellet, as we call it. And that pellet is made up of soybean meal, distiller's dried grains, ground limestone, and so forth here. So we mix this half and half with the creep ration the second week after they're weaned. And then Here are the advantages of that system. Rapid gains, a half a pound a day, up to a pound per head per day. I'm going to show you a little bit of data, or talk to you a little bit about some data that we've accumulated that will support this idea of rapid gains with the lambs that are kept in confinement. And we weaned the lambs from the ewe at 60 days, kicked her out to fresh air and sunshine. Whatever she can scavenge, that's all she needs to do. And then we feed the highest quality feeds that we can to the lambs to get the greatest amount of gain we can. Weaning stress is limited. When we first did this many years ago, wean lambs at 60 days of age, we didn't know how to handle these lambs, and they had a weaning stress of losing weight or not gaining any weight for about a week to 10 days to 2 weeks. As we went along with this system, we learned how to do it. And I tried to describe that to you just a minute ago. They're mixing the rations together, keeping the lambs in the same area that they had been in all their life. And that limits the weaning stress. So we don't even count weaning as a stress time for these lambs. If we separate the ewes and the lambs, the ewes might bawl a little bit, but the lambs won't ever miss a lick if they've got plenty of feed and water in front of them. This is a real quick. This is a example of some research that we did some years ago, performance of lambs in 3 systems. And as we read across the system, we took all twin lambs in all 3 systems. The one was weaned and one was unweaned. And then versus 2 weaned versus 2 unweaned. Then the experiment was 58 days, 62, 53. Basically, it's what we went to, because we went from 56 pounds up to 99 pounds. That's how long it took them to get there. Average daily gain, you see that the 2 weaned lambs gained less had a lower average daily gain than the other 2. But the daily feed intake was higher for these lambs. Why is that the case? This is lamb feed. This is only lamb feed. 3.43 pounds for the 2 weaned versus the 2.9 and 2.46 for the other 2 groups. Why is that? The highest intake was from the 2 weaned lambs because that's all they had to eat. For the 1 and 1, it was 2.90. So one lamb was eating like the 2 weaned lambs were, and the other lamb was not. He was eating like the 2 unweaned lambs, 2.46 over there. So it averages out that the greatest feed intake for the lambs was with the 2 weaned versus the 1 and 1 versus the 2 unweaned. And the feed efficiency was also highest. That means it took more feed to produce a pound of gain. Lamb feed, that is. Lamb feed, 4.9 versus 3.87 versus 3.19. But that's not all, because we got to look down the bottom, because that old ewe that was nursing that single lamb in the first system or the twin lambs in the second system, they were eating a lot of feed too. Now, the 2 weaned lambs, they didn't have a mother that was eating anything there. She's on fresh air and sunshine. So look what happens here. The smaller the number, the better. The smaller the number, the better. And daily feed intake was really low on the 2 weaned, and the feed efficiency, pounds of feed total for the ewe and the lamb, was 4.90 for the 2 weaned versus 7.63 and 7.55. Which one of those systems is most efficient? Based on pounds of feed required to produce each pound of gain of the lamb. It's obvious that the 2 weaned lambs are best. Okay, they were most efficient. So just an illustration of why we might wean at 60 days of age. The disadvantages of this system, of course, its facility and expensive ration ingredients, grinding, mixing, pelleting, any of those things that you do with your ration. So you understand that there's some disadvantages to that system, even though there's some advantages to go against it. System 3. Now we're going to early wean to pasture from pasture. The ewes and lambs have been running in and out of a barn, outside in a pasture during the day, in the barn at night, perhaps. Still, we're gonna have to creep feed. We recommend creep feeding from last week, all the way, plus the pasture. Move the ewes at weaning time. The lambs are still out on pasture, but they're running into a barn, the same barn. Leave them on the creep feed for 7 days. Mix it with a shell corn in this particular case, because the grass they're going to consume in the spring will have adequate protein in it. So shell corn, they'll need energy, and that comes from the shell corn. You can shear these lambs too. That will really help them, especially if they're obviously if they're wool lambs, and shearing them will help get them to market earlier. On day 14, then you can put it on shell corn. These are lamb pastures: bluegrass, orchard grass, grass legumes, small grains, so forth and so on. They're all over the place. Just list a few of these. And I'd like for you to look at this next slide. These are candidates for early weaning to pasture, if you're so inclined to do that. They ought to weigh at least 50 pounds. They should be at least 60 days old. Probably a little older, 70 or 80, even up to 90 maybe. And when we compare this back to the dry lot, and they must know how to graze. As I said, the ewe has to teach the lambs how to graze if you're going to follow this system. Illustration of what happened here, some, again, research that we have done. So what we have here is 4 treatments along the left-hand side. Pasture alone, and then pasture plus supplement. Then we have a dry lot with a 13% crude protein and a dry lot with a 16% protein. Those lambs that were on pasture, from 70 pounds to 110 pounds, they gained 0.34 pounds per head per day. Then we also slaughtered these lambs, and we found they had 23.9% of carcass fat. Pasture plus a supplement. Look how the gains jumped up to 0.58. And then look how much dry feed they consumed, 2.20, and the feed efficiency, pounds of feed per pound of gain. We didn't measure pasture intake, but that's dry feed, was 3.79. These lambs balanced their ration at about half and half grass and half supplement. Then we look down to the dry lot, 13% protein, 0.59, same as the one up above. But look how much feed they consumed, 4.55, because that's all they had was the concentrate, and their feed efficiency was 7.7. Then we had, and they had, I'm sorry, I missed the percent fat on the pasture plus supplement, 27.3, then 33.2% fat, and then the dry lot with the 16. That increasing the protein in the same kind of ration did not improve gain. It did, in fact, it was a little bit lower. They ate 3.83 pounds, and the feed efficiency was only 7.08. They were a little bit on the leaner side, 31.8% protein or fat. So what I'm saying here is they need to be fed on pasture. Pasture alone won't do much for us, but pasture supplement can, and it can be, in the right situation, can be more efficient than the dry lot 13 or even a higher percent protein fed in dry lot. Advantages of this system is cheap gains. Yes, because they're eating a lot of grass. Highest quality foragers are fed to the lambs. The ewes have been weaned or been removed, and the lambs have been weaned, and they still make the spring market. Spring market being in May and June, marketing these lambs before July 1. The reason I say July 1 is a cutoff because the prices are likely to go down at that time, plus the performance of the lambs is going to go down as well because of the heat that's involved. That primarily these would be wool lambs, and the same thing would apply if they're hair lambs, because you're going to deal with other things in July and August with all of the breeds of lambs. Utilization of grass and concentrates. The disadvantages, going to take some management skills for this. And on all these systems where the ewe is weans the lambs at 60 days, always we have the problem of the ewes becoming too fat in this January, February marketing system. Because they're out on, we don't turn them on fresh air and sunshine. Instead, we turn them out on that nice green bluegrass that we got growing around. And they love it. And as a result, they pick up too much fatness. Because when we try to breed them next August, September, they may be too fat to breed. This old girl's had 3. She had 3. She raised 3. Okay. April lambing system. And they were out on pasture. Okay. So we early weaned the pasture. That's creep feed though. Market lamb directly off the ewe, creep feed. Market lamb off the ewe, not creep fed from April lambing. Let's look and see what it says. To 60 days. Early weaned to pasture. You may have lambed on pasture, or you may have lambed on the barn and then moved them to pasture by the time they're a week to 10 days of age. So up to 60 days, they're going to receive spring pasture and creep ration. Wonder what that ration is going to be. That 90-10 will do the job. 60 days to market. When are we going to market these lambs? Hopefully we'd market these by November the 15th. So they get summer pasture after weaning and a grain mix. This can be either self-fed or it can be hand-fed at 2% of the body weight of the average of the group. If you got 15 lambs in a group and they average 60 pounds, then on average they get 1.2 pounds per head per day. Feed them as a group, hand-fed. Self-fed, they can eat all they want to eat. There's that grain mix again, as an example, just as an example. Okay, it can be self-fed or hand-fed. Advantages of this one is the best forage goes to the lamb because we got the ewe out of there. We're going to market by November 15th, and by moving the ewe away from the lambs and weaning early, we get decreased parasites into the lambs after she's gone, up in July, August, so forth. Disadvantages, though, is slow growth, maybe, unless we supplement them just right. And it requires a concentrate ration, and still you're going to have some parasite problems. It is decreased versus running the ewe and the lamb together, but still they're there. These are some of those ewes and lambs on that pasture that we're talking about. System 2 is market the lamb directly off the ewe, creep fed. Let her milk from April until the lambs go to market, hopefully before November 15th. So up to 60 days, spring pasture and a creep ration. Then 60 days to market is a summer pasture and a creep ration. They continue to receive that creep ration. Advantages is cheap feed for the ewe, maximum pasture use. Disadvantage, slow growth, parasites, going to be, I think, greater than if we'd weaned the lambs, because that old ewe, again, is the main infester of these lambs out on pasture. This is a white Dorper ewe that was bred to a Hampshire ram. Hampshire ram sired these lambs. And she lambed in April, and here we are, the type of grass that she's grazing. That's number 3. You're going to market the lamb directly off the ewe, and we're not going to creep feed the lamb. So all they're going to get is spring pasture. All they're going to get after 60 days is summer pasture and fall pasture, and milk off the ewe. The little dab of milk that the ewe is going to give, which by that time is going to be very, very minimal. Minimum concentrates, maximum pasture. Again, growth is a disadvantage because it's going to be slow. no creep feed, parasites are there, lamb prices may be low at that time of the year, and overall flock health may be a disadvantage in this particular system, because maybe we didn't feed the lamb any creep feed. Maybe that keeps it so that it can't maintain as healthy a life as it would be if they were provided some concentrates in a creep ration. September, October, lambing systems. 3 options: market the lamb off the ewe, early wean to dry lot, early wean to pasture. Seen those before? Yeah. System 1, market the lambs directly off the ewe. She's going to lamb in September, October. Up to 60 days. Could have fall pasture, creep ration, same one. We could continue to have some fall pasture, and then winter pasture and a creep ration. In this case, I'm going to change the creep ration. These are 60-day older to the grain mix, because the amount of protein and energy they're getting from this, especially when we get into the winter, the amount of protein and energy from any pasture or any hay that they're going to get is probably going to be limited. So we need to supplement them with a higher quality diet. So the advantages of this is fast gains, stays with the ewe, okay? There's no weaning stress. My goodness, and lambing in the fall is really great, because the temperature is mild and the rainfall is minimal compared with lambing in January, February, and or April. So you don't have to fight any internal parasites, basically. Maybe a little bit there in early fall, but not much. And you can utilize stockpiled forages, those that you have not grazed during the summer and left for fall grazing, are alternate forages. Here I'm talking about, you could use turnips, you can use alfalfa, you can use stockpiled fescue, you can use stockpiled other cool season grasses during this time. The other advantage is lamb prices. It seems that there is a window of opportunity in late February and early March to market lambs that weigh 100 to 120 pounds. And the prices seem to be quite good. A couple of weeks ago, some of these prices were up to $3 a pound for some lambs of these weights. If you leave the lambs on the ewe, then you're going to have to feed her. So that means you're going to feed some high quality stuff to her if you expect her to give any milk, even though her milk production decreases after 21 to 35 days. Then they're outside all the time, and that's okay. But still, you have to deal with the winter weather. You're going to have to feed hay. That's going to increase labor. And with each one of these September, October lambings, with each one of them, and I don't have this last one on every one of these slides, out of season breeding is required. And not all breeds of sheep will breed out of season. The primary ones that breed out of season are Rambouillet, Merino, and the Dorset. Theoretically, the Horn Dorset more so than the Poll Dorset. Out of season breeding, getting the genetics for that is that takes some to get that done. But if you had those genetics, then lambing in September, October is a dandy time to do it. This is a system that we've developed, and just as an example, please understand, Giving you something to think about. We lamb in September, October, all the ewes that we can. All of them that will breed during the month of May. We'll lamb September, October. We creep feed the lambs a 90-10 ration. At 60 days, we move the ewes away. That's the middle of December. We leave the lambs on the creep ration for 7 days, and we do the same thing as we've done before. From day 7 to 14, we mix the creep and the post-weaning grain mix together half and half. There it is again. Again, please understand, I'm not saying that we have to use this ration. This ration works well for us. I've tried a lot of different rations, and this one seems to be really good for us. It produces rapid gain. And the other thing is that we can feed it to all the classes of our sheep that we have on the farm. It's convenience for us. We're not, some of them we may overfeed a little bit, but we feel that the convenience of not having to make up a ration, different ration for every type of animal that we have, it takes an advantage over the little bit of extra nutrients or extra feed costs that's costing us to feed the same ration to all classes of sheep. I put this slide in here to illustrate. If you wean the lambs from September, October lambing, if you wean them in the middle of December, then you turn the ewes out to fresh air and sunshine, so to speak. This is what those old ewes get. And that's not very high. That is low quality hay right there. That is low quality. That's all they need because they just wean lambs and they're dry and they're not milking. So just feed them low quality hay, enough to keep them warm while they're outside in these storms that we had a couple of weeks ago. And this old ewe, she likes it. She's using that other ewe as a prop to go get some of that low quality hay so she can stay warm in the cold. This system has these advantages, we think. Rapid gains, ½ pound to a pound per head per day. I think we can stand a pound per head per day. I think if we have lambs that gain a pound per head per day, I think we can make some money. So, but we have to feed them to do that. The highest quality feeds are fed to these lambs. We kept them in the barn, or we keep them in the barn until they go to market during that window that we've got down here to the bottom, late February, early March. So the stress is limited, just like we talked about as far as the January, February lambs are concerned. Lambing weather is terrific. There's no internal parasites on these lambs, and they're healthy. And we hit that high lamb price window in late February, early March. And as illustrated in that previous slide, that's pretty cheap winter feed for that old ewe. That's all she needs. She's on vacation. Disadvantages, though, is the facility. Expensive rations. Yes, they're expensive. There's that out of season breeding thing that I mentioned before. You have to have the genetics to do that. Grinding, mixing, and pelleting costs are also listed as disadvantages. Or we can early wean to pasture from pasture. Again, lamb in September, October, wean in December. They've been out on pasture all time. Move the old ewes away from the lambs, leave the lambs on the pasture through the winter. Through the winter. Outside. Can you believe it? Yes. 90-10, creep feed, same as we said before. The procedure for this. Weaning at 60 days. This is the procedure that we would recommend. The advantage of this, highest quality forages are fed to the lambs. Yep, the old ewe gets that, what's left over. Low facility cost, no internal parasites because we're in the winter and outside, and the cheap ewe feed. to the ewes after weaning. Out of season breeding, there's that thing sticking its head up again. So there's some disadvantages to that. There's disadvantage to all of them. There's advantage to all the systems. That's the reason I wanted to point these out to us today and let us think about them. I calculated these numbers here based on the literature and some about the research that people have done, including the University of Kentucky. I calculated this so that the January-February lambing system, if you market the lamb off the ewe, provide creep for the lamb, 2/3 of the dry matter that they consume during the year comes from pasture. That's pretty good, wouldn't you say? Versus early weaning to dry lot, only 49%, and early weaning to pasture with creep is about like market lamb off the ewe, because I had to calculate what the dry ewe is going to consume as far as pasture is concerned here. That's a theoretical number based on the literature of what a ewe would eat after she's weaned a lamb. So, point I would say is in all of these, we're trying to use as much pasture as we possibly can. The difference is here. In an April lambing system, early wean to pasture, 64%. Market the lamb off the ewe, 68%. And then market the lamb off the ewes with no creep. Okay. Still, we had to feed some concentrates to the ewes. We had to do that to keep her going. And so 83% of the dry matter comes from pasture in that system. Think about this now, okay? Think about the advantages and the disadvantages that I went over really fast with each one of these three systems, and tie those in to the dry matter consumption, the percentage of dry matter that they consume annually that comes from pasture. This is the September-October lambing system. Market the lamb off the ewe with creep, like the January-February, 66. Early wean to dry lot creep is 49. It's like the January-February, and early wean to pasture with creep is 63, like the January-February. January-February, 66, 49, 63. September-October, 66, 49, 63. I give a short summary here. Sources of these lambs for slaughter. These are milk fed, 100 to 120 pound ideal slaughter lambs. Well, you say, I'm not going to market these lambs. I'm not going to keep them to 100 to 120. I'm going to market them at 65 or 80, 90, or something less than 100. Okay. That's okay. I think in each one of these systems that we should have a market window when we're going to try to market these lambs. And shoot for that. Manage them, feed them, work them, just like we're going to market at 100 to 120 pounds. And if it comes along, you have a chance to unload these lambs at a light weight for a high price, and it'll make you more money, let them go. Let them go. And I think you could do that anytime during the year. But it depends on specific dates, as I'm sure all of you are aware. And we have to watch and see when these dates are available, when we might get a really high price for a short period of time for any particular weight of lamb. Just as we're trying to do on that September, October lambing, try to find that window in February and March. We could maybe have unloaded those lambs back there in October, little, or December, or even January. You have to evaluate each of your situations, I think, in each of these lambing, from each of these lambing seasons. Next slide. In general, the January, February born give you fast growth, but you feed more concentrates in general. They're born in January, February. We got to market them before July 1. April borns, yes, they're going to be slower growth than the January, February, but they're going to use more pasture. And they're going to be marketed by November the 15th. They're going to be on your place a long time. Then September, October born gives you fast growth like the January, February. They consume more concentrates than the April borns, just like the January, February's do. Trying to summarize a little bit of growth rate versus pasture concentrate consumptions. Can forages meet the nutritional requirements for producing choice lambs at 100, 120 pounds? I think we would agree, not totally. But they can make up 66, 83% of the annual dry matter consumption of ewes and their lambs. That's a pretty good lick. And efficiency depends on the production system that you operate in. Have to look at that and analyze it as best we can to see which system is most efficient for us. In this particular case, this is a type of a facility for a bunch of April-born lambs out on grass. They can go in the barn at night or during the day even. Their water supply is in there, and the water supply is in a tub. We water them out of a faucet in a tub. We set up a creek feeder in here for these lambs. We wean these lambs at 60 days. That would be in about the middle to the 20th of June. Run the old ewes out on the back 40 with fresh air and sunshine, and put these 60, 70-day-old lambs on high quality pasture plus concentrates at fed once a day, hand feeding at 2% of the average body weight of the group that we're feeding. Then, hopefully, after that's done for a period of time, then we'll have a set of lambs that'll be able to go to market. That might look like these. Now, I have one small video that I'd like to show before I get into the questions. This is weighing lambs, and we're doing that experimentally. We were weighing some lambs experimentally, and I thought, well, at least we could see what some of these lambs look like that were born in September, October, and we were weighing them onto a research study. And then in the first part of the video, and then the second part, we were weighing a bunch of lambs off of a research study outside as they were done in that growth trial.
Okay, so today we're going through one of the ways we weigh lambs here at the farm. So we're actually taking the 120-day weights on these fall-born poly-pay lambs today. So we have one of our Paul livestock scales, and we have it fitted with our load cell bars underneath. That way we can use our digital scale. And so that scale can connect to our scanner through Bluetooth, and that makes the weighing process much more efficient and allows me to put the data directly into the computer by loading the info from this scanner onto the program, that it takes out a lot of the writing numbers down, writing weights down, a lot of the confusion out of it. So it's really nice when we're having to weigh a bunch of lambs. So the lambs are fitted with an EID tag when they're born, and we lock that tag in this scanner to the farm ID tag. So we still utilize the farm ID tag when we're, sorting through them in the pen, but when we're weighing them, all we have to do is scan that EID tag. It automatically pulls up that farm ID on here, and then I also have all of their recent weight history. I can look back and see their weaning weight or their 30-day weight if I wanted to. So today we're just going to go through and kind of show you guys how we use this system to weigh these lambs. So once I got the sheep in, all I have to do is scan that skinny yellow tag. That's the EID tag. It automatically pulls up that lamb's number, and then I have the weight that pops up right on the screen as well. So as soon as that happens, this recorder is saved. That sheep is good to go. right, so we're going to continue weighing these sheep that we have on feeding trial. We've got a group of polypays that were born this fall, September, October. We do have both rams and ewe lambs in here, and these lambs are about to go to market in a few days. And today we're going to be using the same scanner and the same weigh bars. So we just put these weigh bars underneath the platform that fits in our chute, and that enables us to weigh the sheep in our working system as well as the cart like we did before. So, and today I'm also going to be sorting off ewes and rams so that we can sort through, pick out our keepers, and figure out what needs to go to the stockyards on Monday. So this is before I can just look at the weight on the scanner, and so even on here I can look at this particular sheep's daily weight gain since the last time it was weighed. So these sheep were weighed 2 weeks ago, and this is a ewe lamb, and since the last time we weighed her, she's been gaining 0.45 pounds per day. So it shows it right here on the scanner. It makes it really easy if you're wanting to know the info. She weighed 126 pounds, been gaining almost a half a pound per day in the past 2 weeks. We have another ewe lamb. She weighs 131 pounds, and she's actually been gaining almost 0.6 pounds per day. We have a ram lamb here. She weighs 133 pounds, and since in the last 2 weeks, she's been gaining almost 1 pound per day. So that's a good difference for you to see. A lot of times these ram lambs, you're looking at upwards of a half a pound or so more per day of weight gain on these ram lambs than the ewe lambs. We have another ram lamb here. He weighs 152, and again, the last 2 weeks he's been gaining about 1 pound per day. They are on self-feeders and silage, so they're on a really good diet. And 1 pound per day weight gain, and we're pretty happy with that with these polypay.
The main thing that I wanted to show you here was the type of lambs these are. These are polypays again. They were born last September, October. I had some data. We sold these the non-keepers this past Monday, and these lambs gained 0.89 pounds per head per day, 9/10 of a pound per head per day. These are polypay lambs. In this study, this experiment that we were talking about here, they weighed, when we put them on, they weighed 92 pounds each on an average. That's an average. We kept on the experiment for 42 days, 6 weeks. Then we weighed them last Friday before we took them to market on Monday. They averaged 130 pounds. So they had gained about 38 pounds each in that 42-day period. 0.9 pounds per head per day. That's a mixture of ewes and rams. We had equal number of ewes. We had in each, we had 2 big pens of 26 lambs each, and we had 13 ewes and 13 lambs in each one. These lambs ate 3.2 pounds, 3.2 pounds of the grain mix per head per day, plus 1 pound of silage in the feed trough. just as a roughage source. Could have been hay, could have been a half a pound of hay. A half a pound of hay would equal about a pound of silage. Could do the same thing. So they were getting a ration that was basically 90% concentrate and about 10% roughage. So it cost us, based on the cost of the shell corn that we cracked and the protein pellet that we put in here, that feed cost per head per day was basically 50 cents per head per day. 50 cents per head per day. So the feed cost per pound of gain was 56 cents. 56 cents per pound of gain is what it cost us for feed. We sold these lambs for an average $2.11 last Monday. So the way I looked at it, we were 56, it was costing us 56 cents to produce $2.11 of income. An illustration, not ramming it down your throats, please understand that. Just trying to illustrate that even the Polypay breed that is not known for fast growth rate compared with Hampshires and some others, feeding a high quality feed produces a pretty high value product. Now, the one other thing about this, when we sold these lambs, we had picked out the ewe lambs to keep for replacements, and we had kept 8 ram lambs, the top ram lambs in the bunch. Some of the lambs, there was some variation on the weights of some of the lambs. Some of them weighed over 150 pounds, and some of them would weigh 100 to 110 pounds. Those are primarily the ewe lambs. And at that market last Monday, we had 2 ewe lambs that weighed 67 pounds. They brought $3.08 a pound. We had 12 ewe lambs that weighed 101 pounds average. They brought $2.73. And then the 141 pound lambs, the big ones, brought $1.91. We're at the mercy of the market. Yes, we're at the mercy of the market. When you average all of that out, that's where I got the $2.11 for all of them. So either way, seems to me like if you have 56 cents worth of feed to produce a $2.11 income, you ought to be able to make a little bit of profit here. I guess what I would say is we got to get lots of lambs on the ground. That's an important thing. The most important thing. The more lambs, the better. But at the same time, we have to be able to manage them, feed them, so that they can perform at their genetic maximum. We have to decide which system we want to operate in, whether we want to use maximum pasture or use considerable concentrates to produce a high quality product. One more time, I believe that we should pick out our marketing window before we ever turn the ram in for breeding, and then manage these animals so that they'll fit into that window. If your window is marketing heavy lambs, then if the opportunity comes along in between lambing and market them, there's a better opportunity, you think, to sell them. Don't be bashful. Let them go. Let them go. You're not married to the heavy weight, but I think we should use that as a base and work from it.
Right, we've got a person who says they have the ability to mix or grind their own rations. For the dry lot system, would you mix for a post-wean ration to feed out? He has soy meal and corn on site. Would you do an 80-20 and leave distillers out? And also, how much limestone, if any, Should he add to a ton?
You could leave the distillers out, yes, but you have to make up a little bit more with the soybean meal. The reason we put the distillers in there, a lot of times it's cheaper, and there may be some other benefits of adding a small amount of distillers like what we put in here. Either way is okay, either way. But if you pull one thing out, you got to substitute it from a nutrient standpoint, from a TDN or energy, protein, minerals, and vitamins. You got to keep those at the right levels. If you pull one thing and add something else, you still have to meet the requirements of the sheep. The amount of limestone in a ton of feed, it's about 1% ground limestone. We fed up to 3% before experimentally, and we saw no benefits from skeleton or maintenance of skeleton or growth rate. So we would have 1 to 2% ground limestone, if that high, because the concentrates, especially the corn, is so low in calcium. The ground limestone, that amount of ground limestone should do the job.
What are your thoughts on 3 lambings in 2 years for ewes that breed out of season?
Yes, that's good. I think in that case, then you're going to have to early wean, surely by 60 days, because the ewe has got to recuperate. Remember, we can't rebreed her while she's milking. She has to have the lambs weaned before we can rebreed her. In that process, then you're going to have to feed her extra once she weans the lamb, or once the lamb is weaned from the ewe. Then you're going to have to feed her because you need to get her body condition score up some, especially during breeding, and then clear up until she lambs again. Because that's one of the things that 3 lamb crops in 2 years will do. It'll put a strain on all ewes, or any ewes, from a body condition score standpoint. And as a result, then that translates into milk production and breeding success and so forth. So we're going to have to manage her differently than we would on once a year lambing. Yes.
What breed of hair sheep are best for out of season breeding?
I think probably maybe those that were developed near the equator. That would be like closer like the St. Croix, the Barbados, Black Belly, and some of these would do that. Our white Dorpers, for example, we turn all of our white Dorper ram ewes in with the rams in May, and whatever gets bred, they lamb in September, October. Maybe we get 30 to 40% of those conceived naturally. The main ones that will breed out of season are the wool breeds. That would be the Rambouillet, the Merino, and theoretically the Dorset. But that's I don't think the Katahdin is probably a lot like the white Dorper. Some of them will breed out of season. Some of you folks may have some that will breed out of season, breed during the month of May. Maybe some of them, but it's like a student told me one time. He said, our ewes are Columbia and they'll breed out of season. And I asked him how many he bred out of season, and he had 4 out of 16. Yeah, 4 of them bred out of season, but 12 of them didn't. So you got to look at it. Well, all of them breed out of season is what we're talking about. We want them, if we're going to try to breed the lamb in September, October, we want as many of those ewes to breed as we can. Our polypays, for example, we turn them out same time we do the white Dorpers, and they will breed more in May. A higher percentage of those will breed in May than will the white Dorpers, but not 100%. They won't do it 100%. No, they will not. they might do 50 or 60, or that one year they do 40 and another year they do 60. Yeah, but that's okay. Both them and the white Dorpers, if they did not conceive in May, we don't get rid of them. We just expose them to the rams in September, October, and let them lamb in January, February. Then try it again the next year. We keep trying and keep trying. We like the lambing in September, October. We would like to do more of that, get more of the ewes to do that, but they're a little stubborn that way.
If you dry lot feed all of your lambs and give them no pasture, will the April lambs grow as fast as January, September lambs?
No, probably not, unless you air condition them. The problem you're going to run into there is the heat of the summer. Yeah. But at the same time, they'll probably grow faster than they would if they were out on pasture. But it's costing you more too to do it that way.
What times of the year have the highest lamb prices, and does the market want certain weights?
Oh goodness. I guess, yeah, I'll answer the last part of it first. See, that's what I said. These were all of these lambs that we sold, and I gave you the example. They were 5 months old, 150 days. I calculated all that a while ago. Okay, they were 5 months old, and they weighed 130 pounds. Okay, but in that group, there were some 5 months old in there that weighed 60. There was 2 of them, ewe lambs, that weighed only 67 pounds. They brought $3.08. And there were 12 of these lambs. I don't know whether they were ewe lambs or not. They weighed 101. They brought $2.73. So the market on that particular day was for the 67 pounders was highest. Second highest for the 100-pound lambs, and the lowest for the 141 pounders. So that's what we're up against as far as our markets are concerned. And it's been that way from, I don't know how long ago. Okay? So we're at the mercy of the market when we go there. So we have to study as much as we can about the market and what it's doing and what it has done in the past, assuming that it will stay on that same path from one year to the next, which is not always so. But in general, we would say that the prices of lambs are typically highest in the spring of the year in this area. Price per pound is highest in the spring of the year, unless there is a specific time, a specific date within that year when they want a specific weight of lamb, the price might go clear out the roof. Like 2 weeks ago, the prices were $3.35 or something for lightweight lambs where we sold our lambs last Monday. But it had gone down that much in 2 weeks. So the prices are highest in the spring. Yes. And that we've had the window in February and March, we've had good luck hitting that market. We were a little disappointed with our heavyweight lambs this year. Those 140 pounders, we didn't bring as much as we thought they would, but they were probably a little heavy. We probably should have marketed them 2 weeks ago. They'd have fit probably closer to what the market was looking for.
Just to add to that, if you have more questions about the trends, we have some videos on that In the Know page on our website that Jason Watchter, the KDA small ruminant grader, has made that will show you the price trends, like for all of 2020, for example, and then shows you how to pull market reports. So like Dr. Ely said, the prices are higher in the spring until about 2 weeks to Easter, and then they'll start to drop again. And they don't typically pick back up to those high prices after Easter. They start to teeter off. And then in the fall, like around November and December, they'll start to tip back up because now we're heading back into those spring prices because we are marketing the majority of our animals to the ethnic market And like Dr. Ely said, the ethnic market wants those small animals for all of those end of the year and spring holidays that they have coming up. What EID system do you use?
I think I saw Sharewell on there.
Yes, that's it. Yes, yeah. The thing about that system is you saw how easy it was once you, if computer savvy, once you have it set up, he could run those lambs through there by himself and he could do it fast. You may not have the equipment that we have, but still you could do it really easy, I think, rather than having to grab the sheep and reading the ear tag as we had done so many years. And what we're doing is trying to get all this data together so we can put it in the National Sheep Improvement Program. And that way we can get information on our rams and our ewes and compare it with other people that raise these sheep. And then we can compete with them in the sale of breeding stock throughout the United States. But we're a little behind. We're slow compared with some of the others. And the Katahdin people are the one that's led this march along with the Polypays, that we were just late getting in compared with other, with individual producers out in the country.
Do you castrate your ram lambs?
We have not been castrating our ram lambs that are born in January, February, or in September, October. The reason being is that they will gain faster than wethers, and they'll be more efficient in their feed use. They'll get the market quicker. And as long as the market will not charge us or decrease our price for being ram lambs, we're going to continue to do that. We do castrate the lambs that are born in April because they run on pasture clear up to market, and they're running with ewe lambs. So we can't afford to have ram running with ewe lambs because we'll come up with some pregnant ewe lambs. So we do castrate, but we will castrate those lambs later, not at birth. We'll castrate them at 30 days. That's getting a little old, so you have to know what you're doing with castrating there. And the reason we do that, we have to pick our replacement rams out of that bunch. We'll keep like 5 or 10 potential ram lambs as replacements that we might use or we might market. And so to other producers to use as stud rams. So we will wait and look at, see what the lambs look like after 30 days, at 30 days. And then we weigh everything there, and then we castrate the ones that we don't want to keep. But all the others, if you were just selling lambs and weren't keeping any ram lambs for replacements, then, and ours are purebred, if you had crossbreds, then you would want to do it at birth, castrate them at birth. In the years past, when rams were getting a discount at the marketplace, when they weigh 100 to 120 pounds versus wethers, we were castrating everything at birth. Just like we talked about doing. If you were going to castrate you, if you're going to make wethers, the best time to do it at birth.
Do you have any data on keeping ewes in total dry lot?
Oh, there's data around. I'd have to find it. I don't have any specifically in hand. Can be done. I think I would prefer, if possible, instead of keeping them in dry lot, is how we describe that. That means you've got a lot for them to run in, and a shed or some protection from the weather at lambing time or something like this. Yes, that's okay. They'll do fine. But what you have to do is make sure that you have plenty of roughage for them year round in the form of hay or silages, limited grain, like we say. They don't get quite the exercise that they would on pasture, and their chances of becoming over fat or over obese or too high a body condition score at different times during the year is greater there than it would be on pasture, I think. So you have to manage it a little bit more specifically, and takes a little more expertise than it would if they were on pasture much of the year. But you stop and think here, if you've got the pasture, then these ewes are on pasture at least, even those that lamb in the barn. And we wean the lambs at 60 days. They're in the barn only that length of time. So they're on grass over 300 or up to 300 days during the year. The April lambing ewes are on grass. They lamb in the barn too, but they only stay in there 2 or 3 weeks. And then we turn them back out to grass after they've lambed. So they're in there on 340 days during the year. In each of these systems, grass is they're out there most of the time. Dry lot can work, but it takes more management expertise and it'll be more expensive for you.
The Shearwell tags that you use, is that a complete management software system, or do you have an additional management software system that goes with those tags?
That just that will just put the weights into the computer. Then we have to work with that, and that's the reason we say that we're going to put our data. We're enrolled in the NSIP program, the National Sheep Improvement Program, for management of the data.
Are you?
They'll come back with us and about rams and ewes as far as their breeding values are concerned, and what kind of genetics they're carrying, and we can compare those numbers for different things with other producers around the country within a breed, and eventually maybe well, we can do it within our flock, and then we can compare it with other producers as we go down the road. So we can determine which ewes we need to keep. We need to determine which rams we need to keep, all this sort of thing, or which rams we need to get rid of and not use anymore, or which ewes we need to cull and bring in some replacements. That's where the management of the data comes into play. And we can do that by hand, but it takes a lot longer than when we enroll in the National Sheep Improvement Program. That they do it for us.
Do you collect that data and put it in an Excel spreadsheet and then send it to NSIP, or
Yes.
are you using a management system?
Yeah, that's what we have to do. We put it in an Excel sheet and send it to them. Yes. And that's a really good program, folks. If you're in the purebred business, and if you want to market some replacement stock, this is an outstanding place to do it. That is the way to do it. And I would say, in the next 10 years, if you want to market purebred stock, you'll have to have a set of data like that attached to each of your animals that you're trying to sell.
What is a good terminal sire for Katahdins for lamb weight gain?
The Dorper is, I think, is good. I think you could use some wool breeds. You might use like Texels or Dorset or South Downs. Some of these would work with the Katahdins. I have not seen any. I'm not familiar with any data where we've used Hampshires or Suffolks on the Katahdins. We did. I showed you that one picture of that white Dorper ewe. She weighs 150 pounds. That ewe did, and she was bred to mature Hampshire ram that we own. And we did a group of ewes that way, and none of them had any problem as far as lambing was concerned with white Dorper ewe Hampshire ram. I might not do that on ewe lambs. I might use, if you have a Katahdin, you might want to use a Katahdin ram on the ewe lambs. Then once she is lambed, then you could use a crossbred ram or a terminal sire, like a Dorset or a Texel or a South Down. Dorpers would work really good too. I should add that one. I did talk about that first, but I left it off at the end there. Sorry. Either the black-headed Dorper or the white Dorpers. What they do is they just add muscle and growth rate, and then you can sell them as slaughter lambs at a little heavier weight than you would with the purebred Katahdins.
What should somebody do if they've got lambs that continue to pick out the supplement and ignore the corn, regardless of whether it's whole or if it's ground corn?
Lambs differ that way. We've seen it with the grain mix that some lambs prefer the grain, some prefer the pellet. So we try as best we can to mix that ration so it is as homogeneous as it possibly can be. Physically, the physical form is as close to the same as it will be, as can be, so that they don't have a chance to pick it out. Saying that and doing that may be two different situations. Because if we buy cracked corn, for example, and we're going to mix it with soybean pellets, we mix it up. All that cracked corn may not all be cracked. Some of it may be whole corn, and some of it may be like a powder, even though it's sold as cracked corn. So in that case, then you're going to have some of them picking it out. Best I could say is you just try to make it as equal physically as you possibly can. I don't think it's not going to hurt them. It's just that they are not getting quite the balanced ration that they should have. But maybe because that's what they want, maybe they are getting a balanced ration, or they may not. But it won't hurt them. We go on. Then what we try to do is clean the feeder out quite often of all the stuff in the bottom that they've picked through. And so that the stuff that falls down in the feeder, and this is self-fed, all the stuff that falls down is homogeneous. We pull out the stuff that might be accumulating in the bottom of the feeder and trash it. Make sure that as best we can that they'll eat the complete ration.
At what age or pounds do you feel a lamb is too big and it becomes uneconomical to keep feeding for a rate of gain? And this person feeds out for a butcher.
So figuring out the target slaughter weights of lambs, where they ought to be slaughtered. You use the weight of the ewes. Again, if you use a Hampshire ram, the average weight of these ewes of a Hampshire breed when they're mature is about 210 pounds. Okay, you're going to breed that ram to a polypay ewe, and the polypay ewe's weight is 160 pounds. Okay, so then there's a table. You can't see this table? No, you can't. I know you can't. But anyway, you use the table to come up with 120 pounds. I think this is a great piece of information that we should use when we're trying to produce lambs.
Are St. Croix a viable option for crossbreeding on hair sheep, or are they much slower growing?
Slower growing. These ewes can be used as maternal then if you're interested in getting faster growing lambs, then I would suggest crossbreeding with like the white Dorper or the black-headed Dorper, or even some of the other wool breeds. And these would be terminal. These would be terminal sires. All the ewes and the females and the males would all go to market. Then you're going to have to find replacement ewes for your ewes that you cull from someplace else if you're not. But the St. Croix, I don't think will add significant growth rate to the lambs, but they could add mothering ability, that sort of thing, to some of these other breeds.
So on my Rambouillet, I'm noticing some of my ewes, they lambed within about the last month, 45 days. And the lambs are growing really good, but the ewes are maybe not have quite so much milk. Would it be maybe a good option with them with wanting to try to rebreed them to maybe wean at 30 to 45 days versus the 60 days? Or what's your thoughts on that?
We've tried some of that, reducing the age from 60 days down. In general, we think about 50 days is about minimum as far as weaning off the ewe. Now, when Andre talked about milk replacer lambs or artificial rearing, we tried to wean them earlier, but that's a little different situation.
Yeah.
And I think anything earlier than, well, I'll go back. Cornell University, a long time ago, developed the STAR system of weaning lambs at 28 days. That was pretty tough go. That was a little too early. And others have tried it at about 35 to 40, and they didn't get along too well. And we think it's about 50 days is about as early as you can take them off the ewe. Is that okay? But I think that, okay, I'll add to this. Make sure they're creep fed, they're getting a high quality ration, and they're healthy before you do that. And when you take them away, take the ewes away, take them away from the lambs so that the lambs can't hear the ewes and the ewes can't hear the lambs.
Okay.
Although the lambs probably won't say it, they won't be throwing much of a fit if they've got plenty of creep feed still in the feeder.